Hey all, we're still in Mark chapter 15. Again, just looking at a few verses here, looking at verses 16 through 20. At this point in our story, Jesus was brought before Pilate after the accusations and the questioning, and in a short little thing that Pilate does. He sends him away to the inside of his palace, to the courtyard area of what's called the Praetorium. Your version might say Praetorium. That's the governor's palace where Pilate lived. And he sent them away with, they say, a battalion. Now, the number that goes with a battalion as far as soldiers are concerned um, is roughly about a tenth of a Roman legion, which would mean it's about 600 men. So he is placed in charge, or placed in the charge of 600 Roman soldiers. And among these 600 men, he begins to be mocked. This is where he gets his crown of thorns. This is where they they beat him with the reeds, they spit on him, and they put the mocking king clothes on him in a mocking way, all hail King of the Jews. Now, I read a story not too long ago that I want to read to you that I think resonates with some of the things we might be thinking or feeling as we're reading this. But it's written by a guy named Mark Golly, and it's found in the book The Good Friday Life. And he says this: many years ago, my wife and I were having a marital moral discourse, and I was becoming increasingly agitated. In my fury, I yelled at her, and I aimed my fist at a section of the dining room wall. Unfortunately, the Holy Spirit failed to guide my hand between the studs, as he usually had done, and instead I hit a stud right on. I broke a knuckle. A deathly silence settled in the room. While I came from a family in which nothing got done until someone yelled, Barb, my wife, came from a family in which yelling brought things to a standstill. She was not going to speak to me for weeks. As I writhed in physical pain, I also writhed in emotional pain. I was a moral failure of a husband. As I tried awkwardly with one hand to sweep up the bits of sheetrock strewn on the floor, I felt a hand on my arm. I turned around, and it was Barb. She said something apologetic, and I said something apologetic, and then she embraced me for a long time. She had every right to pronounce a grand moral imperative, condemn my behavior, and distance herself from me. That surely would have taught me a lesson. Instead, she embraced the anger, she embraced the sinner, and rather than teaching me a lesson, she helped me heal. You see, as Jesus is being mocked on this Good Friday, and as he is being whipped with that reed and had that corn uh, that the thorns placed on his head, as all those things were happening, he doesn't rebuke the sinner. He doesn't lay way to the anger. He doesn't even call on retribution. But instead, in that moment, he is in the act of embracing the angry sinner. This is incredibly critical to understanding the passion narrative. If Jesus doesn't take this on as fulfilling what's said in Isaiah 50, that this one must suffer, um, that this Good Friday, Jesus continues the story of embracing the sinner. He didn't distance himself from sin as much as he embraced it in himself. And by this embrace, he made redemption possible. So I want you to think about the cost that Jesus went through just so that we can embrace him. And I want you to ask yourself, is there somebody you know that has distanced themselves from Jesus, and have I played a part in their distancing? Because where Jesus and the cross is concerned and our souls are concerned, there is no such thing as a social distance. Jesus embraces the sinner in this passage. Spend time today reading it, researching it, and seeing how exactly he does that. You all have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you very soon.